Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Changer podcast. So excited that you're here and just love the opportunity to sit down with individuals and hear their stories and learn from them. I know every time I sit down with somebody, I leave encouraged, I leave inspired. And so today I believe is going to be no different. I've got somebody who's been an incredible just influence on my life. Some of the disciplines, habits that I live today are a result of my time with him. He was my high school basketball coach, Coach Doug Woodard. And Coach, just grateful for you, thankful for this time together, and excited to just hear you share some of your journey, your story as a coach, as a leader, and as somebody who's impacted a lot of people's lives.
Josh, thank you. It's always great to just even to talk with you. But in this kind of venue, it's awesome to maybe trade some ideas and hard to believe, but I see you more, I guess, as a peer now than a player. Does that make you feel old?
I'm definitely feeling old. I'll say that. I mean, you just kind of came off your last season as a high school coach and entered into this new season of quote unquote retirement, even though you're very active, you're probably doing as much as you were before, but you coached my brother, Josiah. And obviously you guys had, an incredible season, 29-0, and Josiah had a great year. And when Josiah committed to Creighton, a lot of people reached out on Twitter and social media and said, "Hey, congratulations, your son is going to Creighton." And I had to let them know that's not my son, that's my brother. But there's 18 years between Josiah and I. And so you've been coaching for a little while. You've been at this. How many years has it been since you were coaching?
I coached for right at 41 years.
Wow.
So in the last 25 at Bellevue West. 25
at Bellevue West. And just for those who don't know, talk about how many state titles did you have at Bellevue West? I know there's a handful of runner-up champion. Like how many titles and kind of runner-up did you have when you were there?
Well, at West, it was who I think we had 6 state championships and 6 runners-up. Wow.
And then at Roncalli, you had a championship?
Had a championship at Roncalli in 96. So, yeah, I'm just very fortunate. Obviously, that comes with a lot. It's not because of the limitless wisdom of a coach. You have a community that wins those things, and you have a great support from parents and obviously great players.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that. 40 plus years of coaching. Obviously, people look at the end of your career, they see the success, they see the highlights, but there was a journey towards getting there. Talk about even the early years of getting into coaching. What was kind of your desire as you got into coaching, your purpose, and then talk about the journey a little bit to, experiencing some of the highlights that you got to experience along the way.
Well, when I was in high school, actually, my senior year, I read a book, Practical Modern Basketball by Doug Woodard.
Yep.
And I fell in love with his approach of trying to impact young men, or if you're coaching women, young women, on a level higher than just teaching them the skills of the game. Obviously, that's important, but trying to impact them on character issues and the things that they could take with them and whatever they're going to do later in life. Because his basketball is going to be a short season. Now, it might be longer for some than others, but however you look at your life, it's going to be a short season. And so I really got interested in that, and that was, I just wanted to coach, and I knew to do that I had to teach if I was going to coach high school, and so that was really a lot of, to my high school coach, John Ed, and then Coach Wood, and just that book did a lot to bring me into the idea of coaching. And as things go on, and I sometimes feel that we're just not getting as many young young people in coaching. It's a hard gig, and it takes a tremendous amount of time, and we need more leaders in coaching and getting involved at a young age. And one of the things, so when I was at Roncalli, just to show you how this thing is such an escalator, that 96 team, it was like this, up and down, like an elevator all year. And we beat Scott by 62 points in right before Christmas. Wow. And then right after Christmas, we played them again, and we actually lost. So a team that we beat by 62,
wow,
not only lost, it was the first victory in the history of Scott High School in basketball. Their first win ever. And we went as late in that season as losing to, I believe Crete was 4-16 when they beat us our last home game. And there was a time where, and this was 1996.
Right.
There was a time where I sat in my front yard in the middle of the winter and thought, can I even do this anymore?
Yeah.
You know, that at that age, have I lost the ability to even reach kids?
Wow.
And we go on to win the state championship. And but so you're going to have times that are rough.
Yeah.
That in this, if you're dealing with people, it's going to be something that you have to be able to deal with disappointment. And you have to realize there's going to be those valleys, and you got to have something that carries you through those.
Such a good point. I know, because how many years would that have been you were coaching at that moment in 96 when you're sitting in your front yard? How many years had you been coaching?
So it would have been about 15 right then.
So you were already 15 years into it. You're asking yourself that question, sitting in the front yard outside in the dead of winter. And I can only imagine how many more times you would be in a similar situation when you're coaching high school kids. I mean, I know how I was in high school and others. I think about, as you're telling that story, when we lost in districts my sophomore year to Millard West.
It's another of those times, by the way.
I can only imagine you were sitting in your front yard in the winter, because we beat them by 30 not too many weeks earlier, and then we turn around and lose to them in districts and miss out on going to state. For me, you know what I'll never forget about that moment, though, which ties into what you're talking about. I remember being so frustrated, upset, and I remember you calling myself, Mike Jenkins, into your office, and something you said to me has stuck with me for the rest of my life, and it's something I speak and share with others, is you looked at us and you said, guys, it's not a matter of if adversity is going to hit, it's a matter of when. And I remember you said, over the course of the game, there's adversity. Over the course of a season, there's adversity. And what matters is how you respond to that adversity. I don't know if you remember that conversation. Yeah. I'm sure you've had that conversation with a lot of young people. But like you're saying, there's times where adversity hits where you don't feel like you can keep going, keep moving. But the truth is, regardless of what field you're in, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of if you're even really good and called to what you're doing, there's going to be seasons and moments of significant adversity where you're going to ask those questions. Obviously, that moment didn't stop you from continuing to coach. What do you think carried you and kept you going? Because I'll say this about you too. You lived with a passion for the game and a passion. I mean, you showed up ready to go, to play, to engage. I don't know if you still play pickup with the guys all the way until your last year, but you were always playing with us. You lived with a sense of passion. Maybe talk about the role of passion and purpose when it comes to even getting through some of that adversity.
Well, I think if you believe in your heart that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and that you're fulfilling a purpose, and obviously, I thought that God has a purpose for each of us, and part of that purpose, obviously, I don't know that He's necessarily as concerned that we have this job or that job, but I do think he's concerned in how we live our life and how we impact other people.
Yep.
And as long as you're in a venue that you're able to do that, I think he uses those circumstances to build strength in us. And you know what? Because sometimes the greatest adversity is success.
Right.
It's because
right.
I remember hearing John Wooden actually talk about that. For every 10 men that can handle failure, there's one that can really handle success.
Wow.
Because, you know, that success tends to make us not hungry, not passionate,
right.
Feeling entitled, the things that lead to negative outcomes. And so whether it's success on one hand or, quote, failure as the world would see it on another, I think dealing with those things and having a belief in something higher than just, I'm just doing this to win games, or that's an empty pursuit. You don't care how many games you win, because you're never going to win enough to fill that void if that is your only goal.
Yep. No, it's so good. There's that purpose that drives you that's deeper than just that short-term outcome. I know this, you know, I'm sure whether you're sitting in the front yard, obviously you go through that season, you end up winning a championship. One of the things I always appreciated about you is you're always learning, always growing, always willing to make changes and adjustments. Over the course of your coaching career, I'm sure there's a lot of things you learned, a lot of adjustments you made. When you think about some of the teams that were successful, think about some of the things you just learned as a coach and grew in. As people are a part of teams, whether it's a sports team, whether it's an organizational team, what are some of those consistent dynamics that are a reality with the winning teams that you were a part of? What did you learn, and what would you share about the dynamics when it comes to being a part of a winning team?
Well, I think one thing is absolutely critical. It's that the players, the members, whatever it is, it could be teammates on an actual athletic team. It could be folks that work at the same retail store. It could be whatever it is. There has to be a sense that there's a mission that's greater than just you. If the mission's just to make money, if the mission's just to support your family, or if the mission's just to score points or whatever, then you're not going to be successful long term, no matter how much giftedness you might have. And so I think that first thing is understanding that there's a greater, the sum is greater than the parts, and that's what the most important thing is. And then I think there's a team-wide commitment to excellence. If there's not that, I think of all the good teams. Now, of course, you're dealing with young people, and so nothing's ever going to be perfect, and no adult is committed to excellence every day, because we have times where we fall short. But it's that general sense that we're here to not just win games. We're here to be excellent. I know you probably heard several times where I was just maybe as displeased after a win as after, because that's right. In the final analysis, if we fall short of what we're capable of doing, it doesn't matter what the outcome on the scoreboard was. You're doing less than what you're capable of. And if the organization can have that goal and that mindset, and then ultimately, the best teams I've coached played with poise and they played with confidence. And those things were birthed, I think, out of those other things that I mentioned. You have poise and confidence because you're committed to excellence. You show up every day, you work hard, you value your teammates, you know that we're all in this together. And all of that leads to a poise and a confidence that's necessary to be successful in big moments.
Yeah, it's so good. I love just that idea of pursuing the standard is your potential. The standard isn't just winning, because every situation looks different, but the standard is really pursuing the potential that you have as an individual, as a team. I mean, a lot of people probably won't care about this, Coach, but you know, just between me and you, who was what was the best team you ever coached over the course of your 40 plus years?
Who else can be listening to this? Yes.
I don't know. It's just between me and you. Nobody else will be listening to this. Obviously, go ahead.
It would be the hardest thing to do is to compare teams from different times. One of the reasons is because they face different obstacles. And I don't think, for instance, is this team, because it was the only undefeated team we had, is it clearly the best? You couldn't say that. Could they beat even our team 2 years previous that lost to Millard North? I mean, it would be a great game. Could they beat you guys? I think for clear dominance over a really, really strong field, you'd be hard to beat the 04-05 team. I just think the overall quality of basketball might have been better in the state. More good teams that were maybe capable of beating us on a good night than this past year. But I know one thing. I'm really glad to have been able to coach those teams, the 2000 team with Marty and Zach and those guys on it. That's a really difficult question.
No, and I think of that 2000 team. I remember growing up watching those guys, and those guys played hard. There was a lot of great pieces with Zach, with Marty. They helped set a standard even for those of us who are following. And I think that's one of the things that you did, and maybe we saw over the long haul of success, was there was a standard just as an organization, as a team. As you saw those teams before you wanted to live up to that standard and pursue that standard. And there was a team aspect to that, but there was also an individual aspect to that. Talk about you coached a handful of really good individual players that have gone on to play college and even beyond. What were some of the attributes that those great players had in common that really helped them, reach some of their potential and become the best versions of themselves?
Well, I think obviously, whether you're talking about a Roncalli and a Jay Heller or a Zach Fortune or yourself, Michael or Antoine or Malik, or lately, obviously, Chucky, Josiah, and I'm leaving out guys as well, but very different players and very different personalities. But I think one of the things that was shared was a competitiveness and a lack of being satisfied with personal accolades or success, and an ability to see beyond the personal into the greater good of the basketball team, and to even sacrifice at time maybe some personal things for that basketball team. And in terms of, you have some that were maybe more athletic, or some that shot it better, or some that maybe found people and passed it better. And but I think that competitiveness and that understanding what are my greatest gifts, and how do I maximize those in relationship to my team, and not trying to be. You weren't out there trying to be Jeff Martin, and just out there just willy-nilly shooting threes all the time. You were using your gifts defensively and ball distribution-wise to bring everybody's best out. Antoine was more of a scorer, and he used that scoring, that knifing ability to create pressure on the defense and then distribute it. And so it's just, but it was an understanding. Antoine wasn't trying to be Josh. Josh wasn't trying to be Zach. Chucky wasn't trying to be Malik, and so forth. And an understanding you're a unique individual, and I'm going to do the best within what my talents are.
I think that's so huge. And I think being in that environment as a team, I think partly too, being a point guard, you're always looking to set players up. You know that you need those other people on the floor if you're going to be successful. I think one of the things that I've seen since my life after basketball is so many people don't understand their position and their role. Everybody wants to
Absolutely.
be the CEO. Everybody wants to be the person in charge. Everybody wants to, have these different positions versus recognizing, man, we're really better together. And I can't win if we don't win. And so I see that mentality so much in the business world, on teams, in these different environments where we just don't appreciate and recognize my skill set is unique. And if I can play my role and you can play your role and we can do it together, oh my goodness, we can accomplish so much more. And getting people to buy into that, getting people to see that, for me, I've just seen a gap in people's understanding. I think too, a lot of people didn't grow up playing on a team. And it's something you learn through sports, athletics, when you're a part of a good team and a good organization.
Well, in the great, I think, dichotomy and all that is that if you will value your teammates, if you will elevate your teammates, you're going to end up getting more personal accolades than if you try to emphasize yourself.
That's right.
So selfishness, self-centeredness really leads to demaximized outputs.
That's right.
Whereas if you elevate other people, whether it's in a team concept, a business concept, if you do that, ultimately it comes back to you in greater ways. And it's just the biblical admonition, given it shall be given unto you.
That's right.
And it's actually true. It works.
And I think I was able to experience that at a young age. All of the awards I received in high school, I mean, anything and everything from Gatorade Player of the Year to down was a result of being on a winning team. It had a lot less to do with me and had a lot more to do with the teams that I was a part of. You're not giving certain awards out to losing teams. And I think if I could help people understand one thing in our culture today is that being on a winning team ultimately produces personal rewards. Not that that's what you're for, but man, the benefits of being a part of something greater is so much better than trying to do it all on your own.
It is. And at the same time, I don't know if you've read a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willing. Have you?
Yep. I think I got it.
Yep. The biggest thing in that book, I think, is to you take responsibility.
Yeah.
If failure occurs, don't offload that, especially if you're a leader, to your subordinates or to folks that are in the hierarchy, maybe not as high as you. Take the ownership. And, in that book, obviously it's a Navy SEAL and it's in a military context where life and death literally are the results. The team, in his case, in Iraq, was greatly magnified their success because they were willing to take the ownership when a mission failed. Even if it wasn't technically, if you were looking at it from an external view, it may have been this sergeant's fault, quote, but his point was, you know what, I didn't make it clear enough to that individual what needed to be done. And ultimately it's my fault. And as a leader, if we can do that, I think you inspire those underneath you and involved in your orbit to greater heights.
Yeah, definitely think that's one of the things that made you great is you had extreme ownership with every team, with every possession, sometimes too much ownership. I'm saying, Coach, man, you can calm down a little bit. We're up by 25 points but I do think it's one of the things that made you so great is there was always this extreme sense of ownership within the context of everything that you were a part of. And again, I think sometimes we're quick to point the finger, quick to give blame, but if we're quick to take ownership, we can always be a part of the solution, not just people who are always, pointing out problems. As you're in this season, I know you're coaching coaches. And so you're helping coaches learn from what you've done, been a part of, invest in others. What's your overall message? What are you seeing in coaches today that you're trying to instill in them so that they can even go probably farther, faster than maybe where you were, but ultimately have the type of impact that I know you want them to have?
Well, the first thing is just that is provide value to your players by reaching, teaching, developing their whole person, not just the basketball player part.
Good.
Because we're getting young people that the character issues, when you're talking about initiative, trustworthiness,
Yep.
learning how to work with collaboration, integrity, adaptability, all those things that are
Yep.
that are important to having a good employee, to being a good husband, a good father, all those things. There's a lot of deficit there, and so as a coach, I think it's our job to really work on those things, and so it's helping. Okay, how do we do that in practice? And what are some practical ways that you can help young people develop that set of skills, soft skills, or whatever you want to call them, that is going to develop a good teammate, a good family member, a good employee, or a good boss later on down the road. And so that's my number one goal is to help those coaches learn ways to do that. And then trying to develop an awareness that coaching is going to be, you cannot place all of your value in wins and losses. If we do that, it's going to be a very, very empty pursuit. It has to be something greater. And Josh, I got talked into by my daughter into coaching my grandson's second grade team now. So I'm coaching second graders. Now, if you want to have, as I'm sure you know, but if you want you need an ego adjustment, go coach second graders.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's very important whether you're coaching second graders, fourth graders, eighth graders, they need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
They need high expectations.
Yeah.
But they also need to develop and learn what it means to be a teammate and a good teammate. And if we can't teach that, I mean, what are we really doing?
Yeah. Well, and we could do a whole podcast on youth sports and how to coach and how to be a parent and how to, just because, like you said, it's such a training ground. And unfortunately, a lot of young people are picking up on how certain coaches and, individuals are leading those teams. And so to be able to help coaches see the bigger picture. I mean, I think all of us as young people, I thought basketball was never going to end. And then you get injured and then life happens. And before you know it, you get to the end of your basketball career and you start to think about these other things. And if we can help young people develop and grow and think sooner beyond the basketball court and become the type of people we know they should become, and to help coaches think about, man, I have a responsibility for these young people, not just to win games. And my identity is not tied up in wins and losses. It's tied up in helping these young people become the best version of themselves. And so I know the work you're doing is incredibly important.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And to give you an idea, and I don't say this just to, pat you on the back at this point. You don't need that at this point in your life. But to give you an idea how important that is, and I don't even know if you remember this, but after the 05 team won, I had Miss Salcido, who worked in the cafeteria at Bellevue West, come to me, and she specifically mentioned you and Josh and Chris and several of the kids by name. But she said, Coach, I don't care about that you guys winning another championship, but those boys they treat people like they should be treated. That meant more to me than you guys winning the championship, because Miss Salcido is not going to be able to really do anything for you guys in life, but to treat someone who's not in a position to benefit us like they're really important and like they matter, because they do matter.
That's right.
If we can teach kids to do that, then I don't care how many games we've won, we've been successful.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Well, we knew if we treated her well, she might give us a little extra food, and we spent a lot of time in the cafeteria.
But Michael didn't eat any of the extra food, apparently.
He should have. But no, I mean, you're exactly right. And obviously we had plenty of flaws on our own, but to learn to treat people well and to, again, be a part of this culture. I mean, I'll say this as we come in for a landing. You know, the older you get, the more you look back on certain experiences and you appreciate kind of all that was being instilled. And when you're in the middle of it, you don't realize a lot of things. And so much of what I'm doing today, what I teach and communicate. I mean, I was just speaking to a handful of real estate agents and talking about this idea of purpose, and always talking about this idea of adversity and how we face it and how we get through it, from the message that you shared when I was in high school. The disciplines of getting up early in the morning and going to those 6 a.m., 5:30 individual workouts and those sessions. I mean, I have a discipline consistently of getting up early and getting a workout in, and being a part of a team, and how do you play within a team and a system and expectations. And so I know I can speak on behalf of a lot of players. We owe many of the things we're doing today in life with our families and careers and purpose. We owe a lot of just gratitude to you and to the coaches that you brought around you, and to the way you showed up every single day to try to help us become the best versions of ourselves. And so I'll just say this on this podcast. Thank you, Coach, for just the role you played in my life. You continue to play as a mentor, a friend, a coach. And I just know on behalf of so many guys, we're super grateful for you.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege, and believe me, much more so to my favor than whatever impact, whatever impact I had. You all have had a greater impact to a greater degree than you'll ever know on me and my family. So,
well, super grateful for you and Lori and the entire Woodard crew. I know this. I could spend a lot of time asking a lot of different questions, breaking down basketball, but grateful for this time and for you reminding us what's important, pointing us to just some principles, taking extreme ownership, and the idea of being a part of something bigger and pursuing purpose. And I know it's going to encourage a lot of people and hopefully inspire them to take the next step. I know too, as a coach, you're a part of a team. And if you're a young coach, or you're looking to get into coaching, or you're part of a team, I know Coach Woodard would love to invest in you in some way if you're interested. So make sure you check him out. Is there any way people can get connected to you, Coach? What's the best way?
Yep. If they want to, somebody would want to email me at WoodardBB. That's like BobBob75 @gmail.com. Again, I take that seriously. If anybody has any questions or ideas or wants input on pursuing a life in coaching or anything, that'd be great.
I love it. Well, Coach, thanks for your time. Appreciate you. And I know this won't be the last time that we'll be doing something like this.
No, looking forward to it, Joshua. Thank you, my bud.